Yo, what's up, world? This is your boy Derek, aka D-Boy, here with your girl
Natalie.
We'd like to welcome you to the African Effect.
The African Effect first episode.
Yeah, first episode.
Very exciting. So we created this podcast because we thought it was necessary to discuss issues related to the African community that were taboo, right? Things that we don't normally talk about, like mental health, sex,
divorce,
right? Relationships, childhood trauma.
Yes, that's a very big one.
Huge one. So all of those things, we wanted to create this platform for everyone to be able to discuss these issues openly and be able to kind of like create their own voice and, you know, have a safe place to discuss these things.
Yes, and that's very important. That's one thing we we want to highlight is that this is definitely a safe place. It's not our job to make anyone feel, I don't know.
We don't want to insult anyone. We don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. We're not here to judge anybody because we're going to be talking about these issues openly.
Right.
So we want everyone else to feel the same. So it's a non-judgmental, judgment-free zone. Everybody be themselves. Now, we are going to talk about some pretty intense topics, like we said. So it might get a little bit.
It's going to get heated. Some folks will get in their feelings, but that's the point of this, is to address certain things that we're afraid to address.
Right. Yeah. And I actually was talking to a friend of mine, jumping right into this. And we were talking about Africans dating and their expectations. And so this friend of mine is female and she's Nigerian, just like me.
Okay.
And you are?
Ghanaian. I'm from Ghana.
You're right. So the guy that she was dating was also Nigerian. And so she was telling me that he had expectations of her in the dating stage that she felt weren't fair.
Okay.
And, you know, he was expecting her to essentially display what we would consider to be wife type duties. He wanted her to cook and, if we're talking domestic, cleaning and being supportive and, you know, while still maintaining her own individuality and being able to bring in her own money, etc. And so she was telling me that she was upset about this because she expressed her expectations to him. And he said that he only does things like that for his wife. So it's something that I think a lot of African women deal with, is we have men that have expectations of us in the dating stage to show wifely duties. So why is that a thing? Why do African men have expectations of African women to display these things to them in the dating stage without a full commitment?
So I think it's mostly because for us, it's very, very important, because we know that choosing the right one is very important, because that affects you long term. So you have to look at the bigger picture. It's easier to look at the now, like, well, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do this because they're not this. But before you move forward, especially if you're considering marriage, it's very important to find out those key qualities, those things that you require ahead of time. But you also have to be willing to do the same as a man.
But would you agree that most African men, we're talking about African men here.
Okay.
Most African men, first of all, you should date multiple people. I think when you're in the dating stage, I think it's okay to date multiple people. I don't think it's okay to be in relationships with multiple people. And African men, from my experience, historically don't follow that. So is it,
what do you mean they don't follow? What don't they follow? Give me an example.
I mean, African men are known for they're notorious for, all men, but African men are notorious for being in multiple relationships at the same time. Let's just put it like that, because I'm not trying to
I don't know what African man or what. Look, I don't know how y'all have the energy for that, because I don't. To be in a relationship with multiple people, that's exhausting. It's already exhausting enough as it is to deal with one woman who comes with a lot. So to have, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think we're just talking like we're speaking in general terms. So I personally have experienced it, but I think that I guess the issue is more so, when do you draw the line, right? Because culturally, if we're talking about culturally, let's be real. When an African woman meets another African man, the expectation of the African man in most cases is that this woman is African and she is going to act a certain way. Right? Different from other cultures, right? It'll say African American, whatever. Like an African woman, African men have expectations of African women that are different from other women outside of the African community that they date. Would you agree?
I agree. And that's because of how we were all brought up as Africans in general. There's a standard that is just taught all across the board. Respect, gender roles, like following, if you're a woman, it's your responsibility to cook, clean, nurture the kids, but it's also the man's responsibility to protect, provide, lead, guide, protect, like all of those things. So it's for us as Africans, it's just generally understood. So when you go to date outside, it's not necessarily the same.
Is that fair?
Yes.
So it's fair. Okay. I appreciate.
Why is it unfair?
I appreciate holding African women to a higher standard. As an African woman, I think that's, I can look at that from two sides of the coin. But I think the problem that I have is that standard that African men have of African women, we have yet to see that standard shift that African women have of African men. So if you're dating a woman and she's African, obviously like you said, there's a certain standard that you hold her to, right? So there are certain things that you want to see.
Right.
Let's flip it. And let's say that this African woman comes to you and she's like, as a man, I want you to be able to provide. I want to make sure that you can provide for me. I want to make sure that you can provide for the household. I want to make sure you can protect the household. I want to see that.
Right.
I want you to pay a bill for me. You know what I mean? Like, do something. Like, let me see that you can do those things. Why is that such a problem for African men to display in the dating stage?
So first of all, it's fucking expensive. Why? Because just like you said earlier, it's very important for us to date multiple people, right? Entertain multiple people. So if me as a man, if I'm having to display that for each and every woman that I'm dating, it's expensive.
Is it not tiring for a woman to have to display those qualities for each and every man she's dating?
Yes, it is.
But what if I come to a man and I'm like, you know what, I'm tired. I was just cleaning John's house. I'm not finna clean Eric's house. Like, what are you gonna say? Are you gonna say, oh my God, look at this African woman, she's not behaving as she should be?
But so check this out. So how often is it that you come across at least 3 or 4 guys, right, that you're like willing to do those things for? How often is it that a African man come across African women where he's just like, oh, let me pay her bill. Oh, let me do this for her. It's not often. It's rare that you come across like multiple people that you want to do those things for.
Right.
So when you come across those people or that person that you do want to do those things for, then that's where that conversation comes into play, where you're like, hey, look, I'm feeling you. This is what I like about you. These are the things that I'm hoping that we can accomplish together. This is what I would like to entertain. So then his mindset at that point is like, okay, I'm going to do more for this individual because I'm getting the vibe that she's wanting the same. Now, for example, you and I are dating or, entertain each other, whatever. And the level of effort that I'm giving you is like Texas here, Texas there, and all of that, and conversations here and there. It's probably because I'm dating other people or I'm serious with somebody else. I'm giving someone else more attention than you. So you can't assume that, like I like those qualities just because I'm not giving you the amount of attention that you feel like you want at the time. It's just possible that somebody else has my interest more.
Okay.
Vice versa.
Well, that's fair, but I'm saying when we're talking about just generally, because I think, and I kind of go both sides on this, but I feel like a lot of women, especially African women, and I'm speaking up for African women here, I feel like we get a bad rap with what our expectations are of men. So I've talked to a lot of African men who have told me that they have maybe dated or tried to entertain a woman whose expectations of them were too high. They were like, she wants to take trips. She wants me to do this. She wants me to do that. She wants to see this. She wants to see that. And I'm like, what's the problem? Those are her
Because
expectations.
she's trying to experience things on his dime.
No, what I'm saying is he also wanted to see, because when I asked these African men, I said, okay, so what is your expectation of a woman you're dating?
Mhm.
Well, I want my woman to be humble. I want her to
Right.
know how to cook.
Right.
I want her to know how to clean. I want to make sure that she has sense. She can
Mhm.
think on her own. She can take care of children. I want to see those things. Just because there's no monetary value to that doesn't mean it's not expensive. That's a lot. So, I mean, I think it's unfair to say that, oh, well,
It's a lot to show that you're humble. It's a lot to show that you have logic. It's a lot. That's it. How?
Well, I think when you gauge it, like for a woman, it's a lot of energy for a woman to put, because it comes with a cost, right? So if, like, let's say cooking, let's say cleaning, let's
Mhm.
say that takes your time,
Right.
right?
That-
And so you're
yeah.
putting in effort, you're putting in time.
Right.
And I think a lot of African men don't take into account, especially when you're dealing with a woman that has a career and that is doing things for herself. I don't think that a lot of African men take into account that time is expensive. So if we're putting in time and we're putting in effort and we're putting in energy, that you can't like say that because a man is paying for something that it's not the same thing. It is.
So I think all of this points towards effort. How much are you willing to sacrifice? How much are you willing to put yourself out there or become vulnerable to receive what it is that you're asking for?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just speaking from a male's perspective. I'm not speaking for women. So if I'm interested in you, right, I'm going to give the necessary effort that you require to get your attention. Like, hey, this dude is like really interested. Now, if you choose not to, and you kind of like push me off with the slow responses and all of those things, and I'm always like constantly trying to like do things with you, and it's always being like downplayed. At some point, that individual is going to be like, you know what? I'm going to give her the same energy that she's giving me, right? So then, what you're and at some point, when you start asking for me to show you husband type of qualities, I'm not going to show you those things because you've already shown me that just basic level quality time, you're not willing to give that to me.
Not necessarily not willing. I think,
but you're not putting forth the effort. I can see that you're not putting forth the effort, and that's a problem for most men. Most men, they like to see effort, and a lot of African women shy away from putting in effort because they deem that as, oh well, my time is so fucking so valuable. Like I don't.
I think that's unfair. Could it be that could it be exactly what I'm saying is that, first of all, there are two things here. Could it be that a woman may want to give a little bit of effort, but history has shown her that she should reserve that effort for a man that she knows won't make her look stupid out there? Because if you have a history of dealing with men where you're putting forth effort continually, and at the end of the day, they don't choose you, or they go do something else, or they're playing with you, you're going to be like, you know what? Why, maybe let me see something from him first before I give. Let's reverse the roles and let me see if what he's gonna do before I exert my energy.
Right.
And then number two, I think that it's important to communicate. So if
is very important.
Yeah, if you feel like her energy is not matching yours, ask her why, if you're really interested.
Right. So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that women know how to choose the right man?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, I think so. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes with experience.
Okay. I would venture to say No,
So let me ask you then, based on your answer,
Mhm.
do you think that men know how to choose the right women?
they do.
That's interesting. That's
They do.
very interesting. That's very interesting.
Please elaborate.
So, are we saying in 2021, with what
Okay.
we're seeing on social media and Instagram and everything, are we saying that men are always making the right decisions in choosing their significant others as it relates to exclusive relationships and marriage?
Most of the time, yes.
That's interesting because a lot of men that I've spoken to, African American, or what have you.
Even African American men?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay.
I'm saying just all men in general.
Just men in general. Okay.
Their standards and their expectations for women are going back to the traditional expectations, right? So women are moving in a more progressive millennial mentality, right? I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm gonna focus on my career. That's going to be my
I don't
thing.
mean to cut you off, but I think that's a bad trend.
No,
That's-
I'm not. We're not talking about whether it's bad or good. I'm just saying. And so that's kind of where it's going. And when you talk to men and you ask them, what are you looking for? They're saying that they want a boss woman, someone that they can build an empire with, but they
Right.
also want a woman that knows what she's doing at home,
Mhm.
right? The traditional woman, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the
Mhm.
kids, and being able to also juggle a job. And then you have some men that are like, well, if she can do those things in the house, I want to be in a position where she doesn't even have to work.
Mhm.
Most men want their women to be that traditional woman that they're used to, that they grew up in, at least African men in the household,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of men are getting into these relationships with women and finding that they're not getting that and they're not going to get that. Is that not a wrong choice?
So here's the problem. Okay, so it's not necessarily that they're choosing wrong. Here's the problem. Women tend to put on a whole lot of masks. when
And
it
men
comes to
don't?
I'm not saying that they don't. Men do as well. But women tend to put on a mask, right? And then once they get, because it's almost as if like they were taught, hey, you need to make sure you do X, Y, Z in order to obtain a man growing up. This is what you're being told.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so then once you get what you want, that marriage, the idea of marriage, then that person's true self comes out. And then the man is like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't what I signed up for. And so for us, with us as men knowing this,
Mm-hmm.
especially now, it's very slim fucking pickings. And so when we're out here dating, we're very cautious as far as who we choose to want to marry, because we understand that women mask their true character, their true self. Men do it as well.
All the time. Men do it all the time.
So let me say this.
Because I think
Let me say this for women.
Okay, sorry.
When dating men, right? I highly recommend getting with a father figure, a male figure that you trust, that has your best interest at heart. Because it's very fucking important when it comes to making a decision as far as dating, right? Because you don't want to get into a relationship with an individual that displays these certain characteristics, because women tend to lead by or make decisions based off of emotions a lot of the time, from my perspective, based on my experience and based on what I've seen. I think it's very important for a female to get with their father, a brother, or someone that they look up to that has sense, logic, and is going to tell you what that man is doing. Because us as men, we understand each other. There's certain things about us that women just won't understand.
I think that also speaks to, especially for African men, the inability to communicate effectively. I completely agree with you that women should definitely have a male figure. I mean, I have brothers that I go to. Women should have a male figure that they should go to that can give them advice, etc. But I also think it's important to note that women do. I can speak and say I've made some decisions based on emotion, right? But it goes back to what I said initially, where it comes to experience. Women are natural nurturers. We're naturally, emotional, but there are some pretty emotional men out there that are very moody now.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's in the water, but hey. And so, women naturally kind of think with emotion. But I think, again, the wave that we're seeing now, especially in my African women that are doing the damn thing, right, are thinking less about emotion and more about, okay, how can this man add to my life right now? Because I'm doing shit on my own right now, right? I'm buying my house, I'm buying my car, I have my career, like I'm doing it by myself. What can this man give me? And so what you see a lot of the time now with women is that they're thinking more, obviously women are always going to be emotional, but women that are starting to kind of stand on their own, we're seeing a new wave, are thinking more of like, what can he bring to my life? And if he can't bring to my life what I want, it's not going to happen. And I think that that's a problem for men, because especially African men, because what it's requiring African men to do now is to show your cards. Show me what the hell you can bring to me. Gone are the days where I'm showing you what I can bring to you and I'm just hoping that you're going to marry me. Show me what the hell you can bring to me. That's where we're going. And I think that that's the problem, if I'm being honest. I think that that's the problem with African men now. And African men are being forced to step up to the plate and do something that they've never had to do before, which is show what they can bring to the table.
That's interesting. I can't speak to that. I honestly can't speak to that because that's not something that I've necessarily just experienced, because I've always been of the mindset, and I think I had the luxury of getting to experience both sides, the culture side, the African culture side, and then the African American culture side. So I feel like I have that luxury of, experiencing.
Oh yeah, because you married an African American, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think with having that experience and that understanding, the culture aspect, the history, and growing up in a household where it's just strict as an African, and then also experiencing life as an African American man, as a Black man in the U.S. I think I've been afforded that experience, and so for me, that knowledge and that experience when it comes to the dating realm, it takes nothing for me to be able to show what I can bring to the table. So for me, I generally think that that's just all across the board. And the more I talk to women or just encounter different people, that doesn't seem to be the case. And it just blows my mind. So
but it goes back to what I said again, experience. So you have the experience and you had that experience. And so now you know better. So I think it's unfair to say that, I think people in general just wear different masks, right? I think people in general, I've dated Africans, I've dated African Americans, I've dated outside of African Americans, I've dated white. I've gone on dates with all different types of cultures and people, right? And I think that everybody wears, to some extent, people are going to wear masks.
Why is that?
We kind of, with Africans, you're right. To your point, you are right. You're, as an African woman, your parents want you to get married by a certain age, especially your mom. Get married, have kids. And so there are certain things that we're taught as African women that African men want, right? And the African family wants to see. And so you're going to do those things, or you're going to at least highlight those areas of yourself to make yourself more appealing, right, to the men. But with experience, you find that no matter if that person is not for you, no matter what you do, no matter what you show, it's not going to stick.
Of course not.
And that takes experience, is what I'm saying. So when you're talking to women now who have more experience dealing with men, they're like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I can do it, but I'm not going to, because that's not going to make him pick me, or it's not going to make me happy in the long run.
So, okay. I feel you, and I agree. So I really want to know, what was the outcome as far as that conversation with your friend where she said that this guy is expecting all of these things from her. And
yeah. And so she asked him, like I said, and he said that he only does those things for his wife. So right now they're kind of in limbo because she, again, is at that stage where she really is getting pressure from her family to get married. And he seems to be, I'm using quotations, the best pick out of all because he wants to,
Sounds
because
like
he
a
wants to
fucking
get
settlement.
no, because well, it is a settlement, but he said, I mean,
Ma'am,
look,
do not settle. Please do not settle because of pressure. Please walk away.
mhm.
I'm trying to save your life. I'm trying to save your mental. Walk
Derek is saving lives.
away. Please.
But I mean, look, well, we this is the problem with the culture. We grow up in a culture where get married, get married, get married, get married is something that is like you hear from when you're young. You know, get married, get married, get married, get married. And African men know that. Y'all know that. So that's like prime, that's like a playground because you see African women and you're like, I know she wants to get married. So I know she's going to do what she has to do.
So, okay, I have to stop you there. I don't necessarily think that we play on that. Men don't play on that.
That's a lie.
I don't think men play
That's
on
bullshit.
that. And dude, if you out there playing on that, the mere fact that a woman wants to get married, you're a fucking fool. And I have to say that. I can't stand that. I've just been me. I've always been a family man. I've always had that mindset.
Well, that's you. I'm talking about general.
And I'm speaking towards the general. Like you a-holes who are out there who play on that. Like if you don't want marriage, make that clear. Make it freaking clear.
That's not happening these days.
And then I also that goes back to my point where I said earlier about women needing a male role who can guide you to make that better choice, the right choice.
I agree.
So accountability as well.
Right. And I was fortunate enough to have a father that I could talk to about those things. God bless his soul. And I have brothers that I can talk to about those things too. But in the African household, it's kind of disrespectful for a woman to bring questions about a man she's dating that's not like her husband or soon to be. I'm just being honest because, you know, most fathers or whatever, they don't want to. They don't want to
entertain.
Right.
They don't want to have that conversation if it's
Exactly.
not something serious.
And that's a problem I think a problem in the culture.
Major problem.
Right.
Major problem. And I think I really want to touch on that because the background, our history, our upbringing, it's very important when it comes to dating and considering marriage. But I'm going to leave it there because I really want to touch on.
Let's touch on it. That. We can touch on it for a bit.
Sure, go ahead.
I think it's a problem, and I think that it's something that needs to be discussed. I think that, you know, it's like the timeline is ridiculous because it's like, you know, when you're growing up, you hear talks of getting married or whatever, and then it's like you get to this age where it's time to go to school, and then it's like, okay, go to school, and then as soon as you're done with school, it's like, where's your husband? But it's like throughout that process, nobody wants to hear about anyone you're dating. Your father, the males in your life, they don't even want to think about that. They don't want to see you with a boy. They don't want to see you with a man until it's time for you to get married. I mean, that's the African way.
Yeah, and that African mindset, man, is freaking terrible. But then at the same time, you have to understand our parents' background, their history as well, what they grew up knowing. And then back then, like, everything was a lot more family oriented. So arranged marriages and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was more so
like marry my family
your dad
friend.
or your mom and, you know, her dad and, you know, her mom, like, you know, you met like somewhere in public and, you know, you asked about her and then you say, hey, mom, like, you know, what you think about this lady or whatever. Then your mom would go inquire about this individual. Right.
They still do that.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like we've slightly gotten away from that. But
well, as an African man growing up in your household, right? Was there ever a time that there was a conversation had with you? This is what's going to make you a good husband. This is what's going to make you a good, you know, this is what you need to do to show a woman that you're going to be honest. Well, did that conversation ever occur? Exactly. But for women, it does. You need to do this. You have to make sure that you do this. African men want to see this. Men want you to do that. That happens all the time. You see the difference? Light bulbs. You see?
So,
It's an unfair advantage from birth.
look, man, I get it. It's tough being a woman. It's tough, man. But it's tough being a man too. It's tough because we generally have that understanding. Like, look, you have to be the leader. Like, everything falls on you. If she F's up, you F up. So it's our responsibility as men to be able to lead, protect, provide. Like everything falls on you. If your marriage crumbles, it's because of your fault as a man.
We're definitely going to hit on marriage on the next episode because
oh my God.
I think we're starting to see the fallout from this cultural thing of like, get married, because there's an unprecedented high of Africans getting divorced, like our age, like in our 30s and stuff. And then also
the pressure.
Yeah. And then when you talk to these these people that are in these marriages, they're unhappy.
Why? But let me save that. Let me save it.
Save it. So that was good. I mean, that's the first episode. I hope that everyone, enjoyed what we had to talk about today. I hope people have stuff to say. I hope that people have their opinions, right? And so we want to definitely hear what you guys think about this topic. We want you guys to discuss it. So, I mean, you can follow our Instagram at, what is it, Derek?
The African Effect 21.
Right. So go ahead and follow the Instagram. We're going to post this podcast there, and we want everybody to share their opinions, talk about it. It might get heated, but that's all a part of the show, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So next time we're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about marriage and other things next time.
Yep. We definitely appreciate you for tuning in. Appreciate your time. And until next time.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.